Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Scottish Football Podcast. With just days to go until the start of the new league season here in Scotland, I'm Gordon Duncan, and today I'm joined by Chris Boyd and James McFadden. We've got over 600 Scottish League appearances between us, so we're well placed to take a look at some of the big talking points ahead of the new campaign. I suppose you could say, Chris, that Scottish football never really stopped. We had the Euros, the League Cup group stages, European qualification, but there's always something special about the start of a new league season. How much are you looking forward to it?
First of all, I want to go back and just correct that. Over 600 appearances, but I want to know how many goals there is in there, Gordon. There's
quite a few, and I must admit, you were doing a lot of heavy lifting in the appearances. The joke was obviously to highlight, I can't believe I'm explaining my bad jokes early on, that I've got none, and you two, but I must admit, Faddy, he's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that 600.
I played most of a couple in England.
Just come back with that, Faddy. But Gordon, you're right. I think, obviously over the summer the Euros was on, everybody was buzzing through that, but there's nothing better than getting the football back up, and in Scotland we're looking forward to domestic football. We've had a little taste of the European games as well, which has given us a little insight to some of the teams, but the real stuff starts on Saturday, and I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to it.
James, I mean, we could probably do a 6-hour podcast on all of the talking points that are likely to come up. Scottish football, it certainly guarantees drama, it guarantees controversy, it guarantees talking points, and I'm sure it'll be more of the same this season.
Yeah, without doubt. I think there's a few already, and I'm sure there's far more to come, but that's what it's all about. I think the league as a whole is getting stronger, which bodes well for us as, working at it, but more importantly for the fans. I think they'll get to see a lot of exciting football this season coming up, and hopefully the teams deliver, but I think it'll be a much stronger league this year.
It obviously all kicks off this Saturday, 31st of July, live on Sky Sports Football, incidentally, with Rangers against Livingston. That seems like the best place to start. Chris, how different is it going into a season as champions as opposed to being the chasing pack this time for Rangers?
That is different. You're now a winner. There's been plenty of people spoken about Rangers not having won a trophy for a number of years, and rightly so. It should have been, it should have something in the trophy cabinet long before now. I think when you look at the cup situation as well, that was a disappointment for last season especially. But when you win the league, you're everybody's. It doesn't really change that much in terms of everybody wants to beat Rangers anyway. But when you go in as champions, there's more emphasis on you to go and show why you're champions. I think Rangers are going to have to lift it again this year. Yes, Celtic were in a lot of trouble last year. It doesn't look as if that's been rectified from the start of this season. But I'm sure, given, inside the next few weeks, we'd like to think that Celtic get players in that can at least give Rangers a challenge this season. But, when you've won the league, you want to kick on. I think Europe will be a priority for Rangers this season as well. It'll be right up there. And you want to defend that title. And, you've got a home game, obviously, with being the league champions against Livingston. It gives you a good opportunity to off to a great start and look to kick on for them. But as I said, with Rangers, Champions League qualifiers inside the next couple of weeks as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Gerrard's got his eye on that as well. Yes, we've seen Fashion Sakala come in at the weekend and he looked really, really exciting against Real Madrid, I must say. I don't know about you, James, but just seeing somebody run about a football field with a smile on his face. He obviously got his goal, but he looked as if he was like a little kid out there playing football. He was buzzing.
When he spoke, when he signed, you could tell the excitement of signing for Rangers and to go and get out there and play in the team. And it's different when you're going into a team that's doing well. The challenge is already there when you go to a club, but the fact that you need to try and then force your way in. Sometimes you get players signed and they're straight in the team. No doubt they're in the team, they're better. We don't know what he's going to be like. So there's a challenge there for him for signing for Rangers and also to try and get into a team that is a winning machine at the minute.
How beneficial is that for Steven Gerrard, James, where it is settled and all you need to do is add one or two? You add Fashion Sakala, you add John Lundstram, who's played at a good level as well. If anything, no disrespect to the guys, it is an upgrade, you would say, on Zungu and Greg Stewart, and moving out other fringe players like George Edmondson. What have you made of that recruitment process over the summer?
I think it's crucial that when you're on top, you strengthen. I don't think you can just pad the squad. I think when Steven Gerrard initially came in, he signed a lot of players and a lot of quite similar type of players, similar level of players. I don't think they were the right players to get Rangers to where they wanted to be, but it had to be done. But now it's a different challenge for them, because they have to bring players in that are going to come in and challenge the guys, that are going to take their spots, the guys that have got the jersey. So I think, albeit they haven't brought a lot of players in, certainly John Lundstrom comes into a really strong area, the team for Rangers in the midfield, but I think he will add. I think he's a brilliant signing, John Lundstrom. And Fashion Sakala we've spoke about, we don't know what we're going to get when we see him. It does look exciting, but he's going to have to go and put a challenge in it. But I think the business have done so far is good, and I wouldn't be surprised there will be more. And I think that the planning that Rangers put in place, they're always looking ahead. They don't want to stand still, which is absolutely crucial, but they don't anyway. And they're always looking forward. They're always looking ahead, and they've got it. For me, they've got it right so far. It'll just be, who do they decide to let go? And I think, last season, getting into the start of the season, it was, can they keep a hold of Morelos? Can they keep a hold of Kent? I think they have more power now to say, you will leave if we decide. I mean, they done it last year. They kept the players. They knocked back the bids. But I think they're even stronger this season, in a stronger position to say, right, we might be able to let one go, we'll reinvest and make a push for, as Chris said, retaining the league title, winning a cup or two, and getting into the Champions League group stages. I think their squad's really strong, and they're well set to go and fight on all fronts.
Do you think they will keep them all, Chris? Can they keep them all? I've lost count. This might be the 12th transfer window where I'm going to ask about, Alfredo Morelos. Is it time? Should Rangers cash in? Do they have the necessary backup? Can they keep them all, or is it likely that one goes?
Oh, I think when you look at Alfredo Morelos, I mean, we're all led to believe that the offer, a few transfer windows, it came in from, was it Bayer Leverkusen at the time?
And then there was Lille last year.
And then Lille, and then it was, I think that there's been loads of teams that have said they've been interested, or we've heard that there's been, but until there's actually been a concrete offer on the table, then Alfredo Morelos won't go anywhere. James is 100% right. Rangers are now in a strong position. You could argue Rangers are where Celtic were a few years ago in terms of they're in total control of their players. I mean, we've read this week as well that, Goldson will sign a new contract as well, so that gets him tied down. So you're looking at the nucleus of the squad is now tied down. You'll then build it again. I think James is spot on with John Lundstrom. I think he's a great addition to that midfield area. Definitely an upgrade in Zunga. We'll be pushing the ones who are already starting last season, and I think that's key. There's nothing better as a player when you go in and you're going to be playing. But as a player, when you go in and you think, this guy can challenge me, he's going to push me all the way. The levels go up, and I think that's exactly where Rangers are at this moment in time. That the signings are actually strengthening the first 11. They're not just coming in and strengthening the whole squad. Alfredo Morelos falls into that category now as well. He's been away for a long time in terms of the Copa America. He didn't play a lot of football. He's now back, and I think he has to self-isolate for 10 days before he can get back into training. We're probably not going to see him for another month to 6 weeks anyway, depending on his fitness. So it's up to Alfredo Morelos. I think that Rangers, it's like every club. Will Rangers do business? Yeah, of course they will. If somebody comes along and pays the price that they think Alfredo Morelos is worth, they will do business.
I think that last year it was to stop 10 in a row. Rangers had to keep Morelos. That was the perception. But I think this year now, Rangers could just decide, right, we'll move him on and we'll bring someone else in, and it won't impact them as much as the perception it would have last season. They're in a better position to decide, right, we actually might let him go. We might take, if a bid comes in, we might just take the money and reinvest it. His time's, I'm not saying his time's up, but maybe it's the right time for him to go. But Rangers are then deciding. It's no Morelos or his agent that's forcing this move. Rangers are then going to say, right, okay, we can actually move him on. We'll get good money for him, and we'll bring someone else in. But I know that Steven Gerrard's a huge fan of Morelos, and they're in a better position again to keep him, to say, look, go and play in the Champions League, get a better move next season or the season after.
Well, I think that's why I touched on the whole thing with regarding Celtic. When you look at what Celtic done for a number of years, they played their Champions League qualifiers and then they decided what they were going to do with their key players, whether that was sell one or reinvest, some of the money from the previous season back into the squad. I think what it is at this moment in time with Rangers, they're in that exact same boat. They can, they can keep a hold of these players until at least the Champions League qualifiers are out of the way. You can see what's there, and the likes of Fredo Morelos and even Glenn Kamara, if you want to chuck him into the equation as well. These guys will want to play Champions League football. Yeah. If Rangers qualify for the Champions League, they will want to stay. So it's a big, month coming up for Rangers, albeit it's the start of the season. But and the thing about it is, last year I think when you looked at Fredo Morelos in previous seasons, we spoke about the red cards and his indiscipline and maybe his behaviour, sulking behaviour. But I think last season, especially towards the latter part of the stages of the season, he actually looked as if his head screwed on. He was giving it all because that was telling me what we go back to the start here. He wasn't a guaranteed starter. Yeah. He knew there was pressure there, and that's exactly where Rangers are at this moment in time. They're a strong unit, strong squad, very strong 11, and they will be the team to topple this season again.
Yeah, Livingston obviously at Ibrox on the opening day, James. There weren't many teams really in the league that caused Rangers any problems last season. I just wonder about the budget would tell you no is the answer to this question, but the performances in the last two seasons, are they now here to stay? Can they be aiming higher than just worrying about finishing bottom? Because for the last two seasons, everyone's tipped them to be down there and they've been nowhere near it.
I think it's tough because they're a team like many in the league that have a turnover of players every year. And I would say they've done well since they come up. They've never really struggled. So I would say that I don't normally think of them as being a team that will be in danger. But I think that, David Martindale, who we're going to speak about, he came in and he had a brilliant impact straight away. He lifted the players and the run they went on was unbelievable last season. This is a big challenge for him now because it's the start of a season, he's in charge, the message that he sends has already started. And the players, you'll see for the response of the players, I think they've made some good signings that will strengthen them. Guys that kind of maybe replacing similar type players, what they've lost. Bruce Anderson comes in, he's a bit of a replacement for Robinson. Similar type of player, can bring the same play into the same style. And I think Andrew Shinnie is a good signing as well. So they do it every year. They find these players, they get the players playing. I think it'll be difficult for them to get into the top six. And when you're starting every season, if you're at a Livingston and for half the league, your first aim is to avoid relegation. There's no doubt about it. It's to go into the season saying we want to stay above the relegation and the playoff place, and then we can as the season progresses, then we can adjust the targets and maybe push for that top six. They've done it last season. I think it'll be too far for them this season, but we know what David Martindale's all about. We've seen it, we hear it when we're at the games, and the players are obviously well aware of that. And I would imagine at the very least they will be motivated to go and make games difficult. So I think they'll still be tough to play against. As I said, I think they've made some good signings, but I think the league's getting stronger. I really do, and I think that there'll be a few teams that will be maybe used to doing well that will maybe be in a struggle at some point.
Yeah, Chris, just on David Martindale, a bit of a big believer that we've got so many characters in the Scottish game and we perhaps don't shout about it enough, and these are the things that make Scottish football brilliant and unique. And if you're talking about our old Scottish definition of character, he would be a prime example of that, would he not?
I must say, I went to the game on Saturday against Cowdenbeath and I have never laughed as much in all my life with some of the shouts. Obviously there was some fans back in, which was great to see, but some of the shouts were unbelievable.
Any family?
Let's just say I can't repeat them on here. But
any one of them?
Honestly, it was it's like a scene from Still Game sometimes at the side of the pitch, isn't it? It's brilliant though, but I think you've got to embrace that. I think he gets the best out of his team because of that. Yes, there'll be some probably go the opposite way and they don't want to embrace that challenge, but I think that when you look at Livingston and they've James is right. The turnover every single year is very difficult. I don't think for me Livingston will be anywhere near the top 6 this season. I look at their squad. I mean, last season scoring goals was a problem as well. I think the physicality, the three in the middle of the pitch from Saturday, Pittman, Sybil and Holt, they're small guys who'll get about the pitch, but that physicality is no there. Marvin Bartley's another year older as well, obviously taking up the role of the assistant manager as well, coach. There's been some good signings there, but I think it could be a tough season for Livingston this season. Again, just because Bruce Anderson obviously scored a few goals for Ham at the end there, but I don't really see where the rest of the goals are going to come from. When you go back to last season, Pittman, I think 6 goals, Guthrie centre half 5 goals. It's an issue. I think we say it a lot about a lot of teams in this league, but for Livingston, it's going to be tough. James, I'm interested to ask you, the boy that they signed from Queen of the South, I know you've seen quite a bit of him last year. Obalai. How was he? How do you think he'll do?
I like him. I think he's a good player. He played a couple of games he played at the back, and a couple he played as the deep line midfielder. He's a good player. I think he's a good signing. Penrice, the signed left back from Partick, he was on loan at Livy a few years ago. I think he's a good signing. I also think, is it Ben Williamson that signed on loan for Rangers?
Yeah.
I think he was at Arbroath last season. Mm-hmm. He's a good player as well. They've signed good players. I think Obalai, he fits the kind of mould of what a lot of the teams in Scotland do. He can play a number of positions. And when they get a penalty, you'll enjoy watching him taking a penalty. You don't expect it. He just strolls up and just rolls it either side. Absolutely brilliant.
A bit of James McFadden at the 6 sides.
Right, this is the bit I'm looking forward to. Right, the sole aim of this podcast today, if you get anything else, the sole aim is I want either or both of you to upset a manager so much with your prediction that they phone you.
No chance.
That's my hope, right? So where are Rangers going to finish? It might be a fairly easy one to kick you off. Where are they going to finish?
Bottom. Gerard will be on the phone tomorrow. Listen, Gordon, I'll be honest with you, I upset a lot of people throughout the season. We've not even kicked the ball yet. The last thing I need to do is upset somebody in this podcast before we've even started.
Right, go on. So Rangers to finish first, I take it from you, Chris. Yes.
Rangers top. Rangers top. League done by probably... maybe just after Christmas this year.
James, Rangers to finish first or second?
No, first, I think.
Okay.
You can't look by them. They're in, they'll take that form on for last season. They've strengthened. Celtic, who we're obviously going to speak about, they've got a lot of work to do to even get anywhere near Rangers.
Right, I'm going to write these down so I can ridicule you both in May. And the great thing is I'm not even going to make predictions, so I'm safe. Libby, where do we think? Pick a spot.
I'm going to go Livy 9th.
Oh, right, James.
Do we actually need to pick a position?
Yes.
I don't like doing bottom positions. I don't mind doing top, but I don't like doing bottom.
Oh, he wants the glory. He wants to sit in the fence. Get him nailed.
No, I don't know.
I
don't mind that. I just don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go through it and we'll come back to it at the end. You can think about it. We'll come back to it at the end.
Okay,
I think they'll be in the bottom 4.
Right, okay. If that's all we're getting for him, we might need to take that. Right, anyway, remember you can watch Rangers v Livingston live on Sky Sports Football. It's on Saturday, the 31st of July. Coverage starts at 12:30 p.m. One of the newcomers to the division this season, Dundee. Chris, you've got players there that you'll know very well. Charlie Adams in there. Jason Cummings is back. Have they got enough to come up and
The honest answer is, I don't know. I didn't think they would come up. They surprised me. They did. They beat Kilmarnock comfortably, I must say, over the 2 legs. I think when you look at Fontaine, Ashcroft, centre-backs, Fontaine was obviously released from Ross County, went to Dundee and helped them get promoted, but it's back up at the top flight. Has he still got, that, what would you say? I don't want to say pace, but I'm going to have to use it. The old legs, I tried to dress that up there. To deal with it. I mean, I think Lee Ashcroft's an exciting one for me. I played with him at Kilmarnock. I felt as if he was harshly dealt with. When he was released at Kilmarnock, I said that before the playoff game as well. I thought he had been given another opportunity. So he's found his way back to the top flight. Very good defender, strong in the air. head or anything. He's going to need that. But again, Dundee have brought in Kelly and Sheridan. You've got to look and say, I mean, I know they've scored 14 goals in the League Cup, but it's a different opposition when you come up against the Premiership teams week in, week out. Charlie Adams in there, he's experienced. They've got the legs in the middle of the pitch as well. But young Finlay Robertson was back as well, playing a few of the games, so that's good. I don't know. I think with Dundee, could they surprise me? Yes, they could. They definitely done that in the playoffs. Have they got players to go and? I mean, I think James touched on it. I think with Livingston, I think it'll be the exact same once again with Dundee. Survival first and foremost. If you can build for there, John Nelm said they wanted to add players. I think James McPake will still be waiting to add a few more, like probably the majority of other managers in the league as well.
A lot of teams up here, James, are looking to be of that size of club. That they come up, they consolidate, then they build, then it's about top six and so on. And I wonder if St Mirren are now sort of in there. They obviously go to Dens on the opening day every season. Tony Fitzpatrick, fair play to him. He dreams big. He tells everyone they're going to be top six. If it doesn't happen, he's there to get shot at, much like you two with your predictions that will eventually squeeze out of you. But they just missed out on the last day. Is this the season St Mirren potentially break in there, or how do you see them faring?
Yeah, I think they'll fare well. I think that the recruitment, again, I thought the recruitment last year was good. I think it's good again. I think they've strengthened in areas they've needed to. I would say the goals could be an issue again. Curtis Main, I think, leads the line really well. He does a lot of good work for the team, but he's not a finisher. He's not a natural finisher. But could that help? A Greg Kelty coming in, Christian Dennis, he is a finisher. He does know where the net is. I think that St Mirren have strengthened, and I think that you spoke about coming up, consolidating and going again. I think St Mirren are now at the stage where maybe, I'm not sure if he will, but I think Jim will be putting a demand on the players to say, we want top six. The aim is always get enough points, get clear of the bottom and get out of trouble and start looking up. But I think Jim will be putting a demand on the players to say, you missed it in goal difference last year. We can make top six. He's strengthened the group. I think he's strengthened it. So the players will be demanding themselves, but I think the manager will be saying, top six is the aim. And I love when Tony Fitzpatrick comes out and says, I think the team will make top six, because so often you get a bit of negativity. You talk about characters, David Martindale. Tony Fitzpatrick's one of them where he'll come out, he loves St Mirren, he wants the best for them. He's obviously a legend at the club, but he's a fan as well. He wants to see them doing well. So I think St Mirren, it might be too far, because I keep saying it, the league is getting stronger. There's some really good teams in the league, but that will be the aim for them. They might be able to make it.
I mean, Chris, they've moved out a lot of players who played a lot of football for them last season. They've then brought in a whole number of players that we all know well, guys with experience in the league. It might look like that kind of balances itself out. Does it still hinge on a couple of important ones? I know Jamie McGrath, who was outstanding last season, he's attracting a bit of interest. I'm sure Jim Goodwin will be desperate to keep him, or at least get an appropriate price.
I mean, I think he'll go. I think that when you look at the signings in terms, especially the Alan Power signing, I know they've lost Doyle Hayes as well to Hibs, who's I think a fantastic player, and I think he'll do really, really well at Easter Road. But I think McGrath is the next one who will probably go. They're in a position to demand a substantial fee as well. I think that from a St Mirren point of view, you've got to look at that from a positive. We've got to look at it as a positive, because if you're bringing players in, you're developing them, you're selling them on. I think the signings that they've made, I'm interested to see how Greg Kelty does. James has touched on it there with Curtis Main. He's not a goal scorer. I think Scott Tanzer coming in as well, the left-hand side. Yeah. That was an area where they were maybe a little bit weak. Erihon had played out there a few times as well. They're a little bit unbalanced there. Tate had covered a few times as well, where Tanzer will definitely strengthen that position. I think Eamon Brophy as well, albeit he made the move in last season. It's a big season for him. He missed a lot of last season with football. He's coming back in there with a point to prove as well.
If it's Dundee then that are looking to kind of spoil St Mirren's start to the season, James, Chris touched on him earlier on, very complimentary about his blistering pace. Is Charlie Adam the main man? Is that too simple to look at Dundee in that way?
No.
How important is he going to be this season, and can he still shine in the top flight?
Oh, it's not too simple. I think that you see the quality he has. You look at Charlie towards the end of the season. When he played, you can see he's still got the attributes that he's always had. And I think that making the step up, the better players play better against better players. I think Charlie will relish the fact that, you know, the reason he went to Dundee was to get them up. He's done that, but also to go and play in the Premiership for Dundee, for his boyhood club. So I think that he'll go again. It's not too simple at all. I think he's still a class act. He will find space, and it's no through good luck that he finds space. It's his intelligence to find space, and his range of passing's excellent. If they get people that will run for him and make the runs, that's another year that's a year the players have played with him. They'll understand his kind of movement. Sometimes you get guys that are good players, they get on the ball, they have a look up, they're waiting for the run, it doesn't happen, and the guy on the ball looks as if he doesn't know what he's doing, but he knows what he's doing. The players aren't responding to that. I think that they'll be far better for playing, you know, a season with Charlie, and I think he'll go again. He'll relish the fact that he's coming up against, you know, good players, and he'll want to show everybody how good he is. Boyd will tell you more than anybody. He loves the attention. He loves people saying he's a good player and he's going to be the main man. He loves being the main man.
How many shots from the halfway line do you think was taken by
You've just stole my punchline. There's one thing we can guarantee: there will be at least 10 efforts before Christmas from the halfway line.
I'm all for it. I am all for that. I hope you're right. Right, okay then. So Dundee against St Mirren on the opening day. James can continue to get splinters and sit in the fence. He can just give us a ballpark of where these sides are going to finish this season, and Chris, you can be the bad cop and tell us specifically. James?
I'll go for top 12, both of them.
Come on. Don't do this.
But I think Dundee...
Oh, Chris, put this guy out his misery. Seriously, show him how it's done.
I never actually looked at it because I don't do predictions. I do top 6 predictions and I do bottom 6. I don't do places.
Dundee, top 6 or bottom 6? I'll give you a 50-50
Bottom
shout.
6 for Dundee. Bottom
Very brave of you.
Ooh, wait a minute, actually. And move on to Boydie.
I'm going to go St Mirren
as well.
I'm going to go St Mirren. We'll sneak into top 6 this year. I'm going to go 6 for St Mirren, and I'm in two minds whether Dundee or Dundee United will finish 10th or 11th. I'm going to go with Dundee in 10th position.
Oh. James, are you just you switching off? You glazing over?
Aye, I'll go. What have I said? Dundee bottom 6.
Yeah.
That's a good shout for Boydie about St Mirren.
Right, okay, St Mirren to sneak.
I'll go St Mirren to push it close, but just to miss out.
Okay, Ross County against St Johnstone.
7th.
Another fascinating fixture. Ross County against St Johnstone. I feel like we have to start with St Johnstone, right? They were everybody's second favourite team last season. They were one of the great success stories for a long time in Scottish football. How on earth do they top that, Chris Boyd? What is next for St Johnstone team that goes and wins 2 cups?
Well, it's as simple as this, Gordon. They don't top it, that's for sure. I think, having spoken to Callum a few weeks ago, we played a round of golf, which we'll not really go into too much detail.
We watched it.
But what I will say is, I think first and foremost, survival for St Johnstone. And I know that might sound stupid, but that's exactly what we've seen it before, where teams have not won 2 cups, but been in the top 6 and relegated the following season, or even the season after. I think it happened to Partick Thistle. And then when you look at Kilmarnock going down after finishing 3rd as well, I know that was a couple of seasons after it. So first and foremost, usually when you do so well, you lose your better players. I think it's going to be no different for St Johnstone. Rooney potentially, does he go? I would say so. But the one thing about Callum, he always seems to find somebody to come in. He always seems to replace them. When you go back to even like last season, I think was it McNamara from Millwall that played the first part of the season, and then all of a sudden, you felt as if, right, where are they going to go from here? And Rooney went over to that right hand side and he excelled. It was unbelievable. Fair play to him. But I think for St Johnstone, they don't top it, but I think they can continue the form that they've shown, and definitely, in the league, and definitely push towards getting in that top 6 position for me. They've got the nucleus of a good team there. I think the following season will be a big challenge. I think Jason Kerr is out of contract the following year. But Kerr, Gordon, McCarthy had really good balance there. The experience and goalkeeper as well. So I think that for St Johnstone, they're in a good place. But it's like everything else. When you do really well, you lose your players. And if they start really well, and there's other teams don't, I think Callum Davison will be another one who, bigger clubs will be looking at as well. So it's not just players. I think Callum Davison will be on the radar of big clubs now, plain and simply because of what he done last year. Winning the 2 Cups was an unbelievable achievement.
James, how good is he? I mean, to do that in your first season, I think he got all the praise he deserved last season. You probably can't praise it enough. We take for granted a little bit. You forget that the budget disparity and all the rest of it. If clubs are not having a look at Callum Davidson, and I'm sorry, St Johnstone fans, but if they're not, then they're not doing their job, are they?
No, they will be looking at him. I think that we spoke about how well he's done. I think you look at the start of the season, he came in, he was replacing a guy that was, the most successful manager in St Johnstone's history, winning the Scottish Cup for the first time. And he had to follow that. And how often do you see it where a new manager comes in and they can't reach the levels? He surpassed that in his first season. At the start of the season, they weren't winning games, but he stuck with it. He stuck with his formation. He stuck with the style of play. And gradually, they managed to get all the parts together. They were creating chances. They just couldn't put them away. There was maybe on the wrong end of a couple of decisions. And it would have been easy for people to say, it's his first job, he's at his depth. But he stuck with it. He stuck by his conviction. He could have changed it. He could have panicked and changed it, but he believed what he was doing was the right thing. And then he gets a reward at the end of the season. To win 2 cups in your whole career is magnificent. To win your first season as a manager is ridiculous. To get into the top 6 in that same season, how often do you see it where a team will go a run in Europe, their league form suffers? They just kept going. They just kept churning out results. And I don't know if maybe the Scottish Cup being condensed at that stage of the season last season helped them, because they were on a good run and they managed to maintain that.
Yeah.
But Boydie's spot on. The players, they've not done a lot of business. They've lost Melamed, who I think is a good player. He made the difference from last season, give them a different option. It's not who they bring in, it's who they're going to lose. I know that they work in terms of the shape, and that won't change. Players will come in, but they need to then replace who leaves. And then it's almost like they can't get the kind of work that they need to do done as early as they would like. So it's a matter of reacting or planning for players leaving. There have been bids in for certain players. Do they turn around and say, I don't care what you offer us, we're not selling, and run that risk, like say with Jason Kerr? Do they keep a hold of him because the European campaign, I don't know how long that will last. They're up against a good side, but it will be determined by who they keep and how he replaces them. But again, as Boydie says, he's got a real eye for a player, Callum. His recruitment's been spot on, and he's dealt with the challenges. The Danny McNamara one was one where you're looking and saying, he was brilliant for them. How did they replace him? Rooney comes in, and if Danny McNamara had stayed, would they have got the goals that they were required in the semis and the finals? I'm not so sure. So
that's what Callum said to him. So Callum, you changed my season. Thanks for leaving.
And even more importantly, he's known as the Bells Hill Cafu. So we need to keep Kevin Rooney around for that alone.
By the way, Callum, it was interesting, James. I know you touched on it there as well. Callum mentioned, obviously at the start of the season it wasn't, really going for him, and it's important you stick to your principles and everything. He says the other week that he says, I phoned 2 managers that I trust in the game that I speak to. He says, one says you need to change it, another one says stick with it. He says, so you don't know what to do. He says, so that really helps. That's
a learning curve, isn't it, when you're managing? 100%. Because the natural thing you would think would be to change it. It's not working, change it. But he stuck with it because they were playing well. They were creating chances. He could flip between the 2 up and 1 off to having 1 up and two kind of 10s. And they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. I think Melamed made a huge difference to them. I do, because he
it's interesting what you say as well. I think
Kane.
when you look at Craig Conway and people like that leaving as well, experienced players, and I know we all get to an age where it comes to an end, but I just think with guys like that, it's not as if, it's a good career. I'm not saying you go and you offer him something where he turns around and says, but in terms of the contracts and stuff, keep people like that around. Keep them around, as you say, because when you're working in that shape, he came in, he played a massive part. It wasn't as if he was a bit part player last year. He started a lot of the games last season as well. Guys like that, keep them in and around. But whether he decides that he's had enough or not, I'm not quite sure. But I think that's another one you maybe look and say the exact same as Melamed. Big players who made a big contribution to an excellent season for St Johnstone last year.
It's Dingwall on the opening day, and one of the new era teams, if you like. It's the Malky Mackay era in Dingwall. It's a situation we don't always see, James, where John Hughes keeps Ross County in the division, but is not the manager for the following season. What do you make of what the season might look like for Ross County?
To be honest, I have no idea. No idea.
Honest,
I think that Malky has obviously got a good track record as a manager. He's been working in the performance side of the SFA for a number of years. Listen, we know it's a good club. It's run well, Ross County. The managers are backed in terms of the recruitment of players, and I'm sure that Malky would have been planning within his job at the SFA. He would have been looking to get back into management and planning and thinking about what he was going to do. I think the players that have left, Vigers, Draper, Gardine, these are guys that Billy Mackay, that they've been synonymous with Ross County. It's or the Highlands especially. Put Tremarco in there as well, and they're obviously getting away for that. These players have left, and sometimes, as Boydie says, I agree. You don't just get rid of experience because they're experienced and they're getting older. You need to look at what they bring. And sometimes managers go in, particularly younger managers, younger coaches, and say, I need to get rid of the old ones because I need to stamp my authority in the side. That's not the case with Malky Mackay. He's bullish, he's confident, he knows what he wants, he knows how to deal with people. That wouldn't be the issue there. And I know that he's made the decision for his team. So I think that going on his track record, I think Malky will do well. But they need to get players in. They've lost a lot of players. They probably had a big squad as it was, but I think they need to get players in. They've been severely disrupted with COVID. With the League Cup campaign was a non-starter. I don't think they've played too many games. So we always say, it's still cliche, isn't it? You need to go off to a good start, win as many games as you can early. I think it might be tough for them to do that. I don't know how much training they've done, how much what Malky's actually been able to do with a full squad. So I think that at the start, they need to make sure they can pick up a result or two here or there to make sure that they get off to a decent start. They're not going to get off to a flying start. They need to get off to a decent start and then look to build on that. But to be honest, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do. Because
when you look at Ross County last season, James, they got off to a good start. They got off to a really good start last year. I think it was 7 points from the opening 7 points from the opening 9 last season. They started the season really, really well. You're right. He's lost a lot of experience there. But for me, I know they finished 9 points clear of Hamilton, at the bottom of the table. But it was, it was right to the end with them. It wasn't comfortable at all. As you say, they've lost a lot of experience. People who, you can go to a football club and you play at a football club for a number of years, but it doesn't really bother you. The guys that you've mentioned there, they're ingrained in that football club. That when you look at the history books, that the names you've mentioned are right up the top there in terms of appearances and goals and stuff. So it's a big loss. I get the fact that you want to, an overhaul and you want to change things and everything. But for me, looking at Ross County from last season, I think they were lucky to get away with it. 35 goals, only Dundee United scored less. It's an issue. There's going to be a big onus on people like Ollie Shaw to step up this season. will they get players in? You would like to think so, but I don't think there's any guessing, or there's not much guessing for where you think where I think they're going to finish. That's for sure.
Come on then, fellas, put us out of misery.
Bottom.
Rock bottom.
Wow. Okay, James, are you going bottom 6 for Ross County? Is that?
Yeah, I think it is, for all the points that Boydie put across. I think Malky will have an impact, but I don't know that he'll be able to have that big an impact when you look at the players have lost, the lack of replacements, if you like. So I would go with that bottom 6 for Ross County.
St Johnstone, on the back of last season, have they not earned the right for some people to tip them to finish third? So is that where we should be dreaming, or is it a case of struggling to hit those heights from last season?
It's easy for us to sit here and say we'll do this and do that, and they can finish that. Probably the first week in September we could sit here and revisit it. You know, I think that there could be a lot of players leave, there could be a lot of players come in. We're going on what's there at their disposal right now for these clubs. I think St Johnstone have got to be looking at it. Aberdeen have obviously, chucked a little bit of money at it as well. Hibs have chucked a little bit of money in terms of wages. St Johnstone, again, they're not going to go and sign players and spend money on them. I think for St Johnstone, it's more important to keep a hold of the players they've got, as James said. I think if they do that, they've got a very good chance of pushing into that top 6. And as I said, if they don't, then, we might need to revisit it, in the first week in September. But I'm going to go for St Johnstone at this moment in time to push, with the squads will be there, to push Hibs, to push Aberdeen. But I think they'll probably just come up short and finish 5th.
I'm going St Johnstone top 6. I think that, is it too much to say they will challenge for third? Based on last season, how they finished it, when they go into their stride, it wouldn't surprise me if they put a challenge up.
Yeah,
it wouldn't, as long as they keep the players and they can add some quality to help out. But they've got, a European campaign.
Mm-hmm.
However long that lasts, they've got the pressure of being winners last season, 2 cups, the top 6 finish. And that, you spoke about Rangers getting into the league as winners and how it gives you a lift. And it can give you a lift, but it can also breed a bit of complacency. And not for 1 minute do I think that Callum Davison will allow that to creep in. I think that he sets, I played under Callum as a coach. The way that the demands he puts on you in training, that won't drop. That if anything, they'll get higher. He'll put more demands on them to go again and to try and show a bit more consistency if possible, and try and put a push on for the automatic European spots. I think they'll be top 6 as long as they keep all the players. They can challenge for the 3rd, 4th spots.
I think just to touch on that as well, James, when you look at, I know we get caught up in the whole contract situation with players and that, but see, sometimes when you've got 2 or 3 coming out of contract, you've got players playing for a move. You're looking at like next season, Jason Kerr going in there. It's his last. He's going to have to perform. Mm-hmm. He's going to have to, if he's wanting that big move, he's going to have to go and perform. Rooney, there's he's been linked as it stands right now, but there's nothing concrete. He's going to have to start the season well. Liam Gordon, there's another one that could be potentially looking for a move. McCart could be looking for a move. Xander Clark in the goals. He's maybe getting to a stage where Ali McCann, there's another one. So there's players there where it's saying, you know what, I want to go and kick on in my career here, and that can only benefit St Johnstone. They're never going to keep a hold of all these players if they're going to perform at a level that Ali McCann's an international player now.
Yeah.
They're going to move on. And I said it at the start of this conversation. If they start the season well, and usually, the first international break, if not the first, definitely the second, managers start to lose their jobs. Callum Davison will be one of the managers that, even championship teams in England will have a look at. Callum spent a lot of his career down there. He spent a lot of his coaching career as well, obviously, with Gary Rowett. He knows the league. He knows the leagues down south. Trust me, I think Callum will be, hot property if St Johnstone start the season really well again.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Another of the live games on Sky Sports Football this Saturday is, of course, Hearts against Celtic. That's always one of the standout fixtures that you look for anyway, James, in a Scottish football season. But my goodness, where to begin with Celtic? We obviously record this in the aftermath of another Champions League disappointment. Take it away. I don't even have a specific question for you because it's a scattergun. Take it away.
I watched the game last night, obviously, and getting into the game, the goalkeeping situation, the problem was there from last season, for the start of last season. Barkas came in. He's shown early enough in the big games that either he wasn't ready or he wasn't good enough. I would go as far to say he wasn't good enough. He's not good enough for what they're looking for. When you look at the goalkeepers that Celtic have had over the years, he's not as good. He's nowhere near the level required. But then you look at the back four: Anthony Ralston, Murray, three young guys that have barely. Stephen Welsh, I thought he'd done really well last season. But for him to be, the experienced one, and that Greg Taylor's never lets you down, steady Eddie. You know what you're getting from him. But to go into a game that's a must-win with that back four, and by the way, I'm not putting blame. I thought they done well. I thought the young boys done well, but they're so underprepared for this season. If you think back to last season, it was the uncertainty to players staying. They've got their eyes on a move. Players, murmurs that players were looking to move on, and it was all about convincing them to stay, to go for 10 in a row. How that unfolded, had a huge impact on their season. But now you look at the side. I think they created decent chances last night. James Forrest had a brilliant chance just before Midtjylland had equalised. And for a lot of the game, up until maybe the first hour, I thought they controlled a lot of the game. First 50 minutes, an hour, they controlled it. They looked composed in possession. I felt as though they were trying. It was almost, and what turned out to be the case, it was either going to be the perfect goal or an absolute worldie for Celtic to score. They were trying to be too intricate. The final pass just wasn't there. And there is a huge amount of work being done at Celtic all over the pitch. You've got guys that, Edward, we know he's a top class player. We know the ability he's got. Actually, I think I feel for him. I do, because he's isolated. I think he needs help. I don't think he'll be there. I think he will move on. But they're in a worse state than I thought they could have been. Certainly, this time last year, if anybody had said Celtic will lose the league by 25 points, and at the start of next season they'll be playing, under three players that have played less than 50 games in total for Celtic in a Champions League qualifier, you would be like, right, okay, no chance. But that's where they are at the minute, and there's a lot of work needing done. I think the manager spoke after the game, and I think he's dealt with everything really well. But he kind of got an introduction to the Scottish media last night, and he said, maybe he's not putting enough pressure on the board to get the players that he wants in. We know that they're having problems bringing in players from abroad with the quarantine and stuff like that. They've signed a guy, Furuhashi, from Japan. We don't know what he's going to be like. You can watch as many videos as you want. We don't know what he's going to be like till you actually see him in the flesh. Starfelt, again, don't know too much about him. Don't know what he's going to be like. But there's a lot of work needing done at Celtic. There's a huge amount of players need to come in to help the players that are there, because for one, Scott Brown's away. That's your natural leader gone. He's been a huge part of the club. Are they going to replace him? I don't think you replace that type of character, but you have to try and bring in someone of a similar ilk to not only be a leader on the pitch, but to be one off it. They need a goalkeeper. They need a right back. They've been needing a right back since Lustig's last couple of seasons. They need a left back. They need centre back. They need a midfielder. They need wide men, and they need strikers.
Anything else?
So they need quite a
shopping
lot.
list complete. Chris, James says Celtic are in a worse state than he thought they would be in. How do you see it?
I totally agree with it. I think when you look at the whole scenario, it's an absolute shambles. I'm going to say something that people will disagree because you've got a contract. If I'm the manager, And, he said I should be putting more pressure on the board to get players in. You've got to question his role. Do you just say, you know what, I've had enough? I mean, it cannot. I mean, it can. I mean, we are speaking about things that have been happening for months ago. Need a goalkeeper, need a right back, need to replace Edward, need midfielders to come in and replace Scott Brown. You need a back four. It's constant. You then look at it and say, you've brought in a new manager, Ange Postecoglou, who, let's be realistic, is he the one who's bringing in these players? We don't know. I highly doubt it. What is his point in being there? He's going to end up, we speak about Celtic being in a worse state. You then look at, what is this going to do for his career? Unless he turns this around, he's going to be left as a laughing stock of Scottish football, leave with his tail between his legs in a few months anyway because it doesn't go. And let's be realistic, Celtic fans will turn pretty quickly. They done it last season. They'll do the exact same again. The hierarchy at Celtic need to get a grip of this whole situation. There is nothing else can be said about it. The hierarchy from top to bottom need to get a grip of this situation.
I think that's the point. I think that Postecoglou's come in, he's seen it as a challenge. He's recognised that there's a new team needing built. And maybe he thought that it would happen sooner. So at the minute, I don't think you can blame the manager. I think the blame has to go on the what would you call the pursuit of Eddie Howe. I said that last season. If you've got a manager that's out of work and he's dragging his heels, walk away. Tell him you either take the job or you don't. I need this, I need that. Thrash out what he needs. If you can meet his demands, meet them. If you can't, and he's dragging his heels, move on, because the work had to start months ago. When Neil Lennon was relieved of his duties, they had to be looking at a replacement and bringing him in, not just coasting to the end of the season and leaving, having no planning, no forward planning for the next season, for this season. It had to be done then. It had to be, right, if Eddie Howe's not going to take the job, who's the next guy in the list? We'll take him in, we'll get him in. He can assess the squad, which he's had to do over pre-season. The fact that Barkas has played a couple of games would suggest that the manager's been true to his word and said, clean slate for everyone, I'll have a look, which is normal. Managers come in, have a look. That should have happened last season. Towards the end of last season, the league was done. They should have brought the manager in, let him assess what's there, let him speak to the players that were looking to move on and get that sorted. Get your transfer business done in place for pre-season starting.
It's pretty difficult.
Because of the Eddie Howe situation, they're so far behind. And I feel sorry for the manager because I think he comes across well. He answers the questions. He doesn't shy away from anything. He's taking responsibility at the minute. But the way that the recruitment process has been at Celtic, not just this season, for a number of years, there's something that's not done right there. They don't help and support the manager.
That's what I was going to say. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, God. Just for one other thing,
we're going to end up running away here because we could do a 6 hour on this. I've absolutely no doubt about it, and it's tough to pick kind of one issue. But just when James said recruitment, the goalkeeper's the main one, if you like. It's the one that jumped out from last night. Is Joe Hart the answer?
Well, I think he's obviously the one that's been linked. But what I will say is, when you look at Joe Hart, I'm sure his name was mentioned 12 months ago as well.
Yeah.
So again, and then I listen to people telling us that they should just go and bring Craig Gordon back. Oh, I tell you what, phone Hearts up, and then Craig Gordon, Hearts are just going to turn into Craig Gordon and say, "Yeah, on you go. Away a free transfer back to Celtic." People are living in cuckoo land. They need to go and do their recruitment properly. James touched on the COVID situation, and then you have to self-isolate. It was the exact same with the manager. So the manager's been through it, and he knows how hard it is. And he's not even playing. So then you have it the same players. This should have been done months ago. I think you could also chuck into the factor that there was plenty to be said about Neil Lennon not being able to bring in one of his backroom staff, and nothing against John Kennedy, Strachan, Stephen McManus is in there helping again. I've played with two of them. Nothing against them at all, from what I'm led to believe. Very, very good coaches. But if you go into a football club, you want to bring in your own man. You want to have somebody that you can rely on next to you. You could say, what do you think right today? Somebody that you can trust. He might in time trust, the guys, but as it stands right now, he doesn't even know them. And the squad has just been patched up to go into play a massive Champions League qualifier that Celtic have came up short on. It's another embarrassing result for Scottish football in terms of Midtjylland. I didn't think they were great as well. You can turn around and say they were in the Champions League. They were hopeless at best. I mean, we were going on about how bad Celtic were. Celtic dominated both the games for large parts of them, should have won. But look, there's a long, long way, to recovery for Celtic. And I'll be honest with you, they've only themselves to blame. And the fans, when you look at it, they stood up last season and made their voices heard. Nothing was done about it, and the exact same thing's happening again. They will only take so much before they crack.
James, if you're Hearts then, ahead of this season opener at Tynecastle, do you detect a Celtic team that are there for the taking if you're Robbie Neilson, or are you still always mindful that there are still quality players there? How do you see this game coming out of the weekend?
A bit of both. I think you've got to look at it and say the success Midtjylland had. Celtic want to play out, they want to build for the back. The success Midtjylland had later in the game was they put pressure on. Early on, they sat off and allowed Celtic to kind of control the game, although it wasn't a great tempo to it, but they allowed Celtic kind of comfortable possession to build into the final third. Hearts, as the game progressed, Midtjylland get their equaliser and they went and pressed, and Celtic got tired and they were making mistakes and they were sloppy in possession then. So they're there for the taking, but you need to respect their attacking threat as well. They've got players that can, create chances, that can score goals. James Forrest come on, he looked bright. He's not played a lot of football in the last seven or 8 months. And he's been a huge loss to them. Ryan Christie, we know the contract situation. Is he looking for a move? Is he looking for a better contract offer? Either way, he's putting in levels of performance. And you've always got the threat, Odsonne Edouard. He's got quality, and you have to be mindful of that. So Hearts, if they go and put pressure on Celtic, they can get some joy. But likewise, Hearts aren't the great shakes at the back either. So it is one of them where you need to be respectful and say, look, there's still good players in the attacking sense, and maybe it'll be a case of being clinical and if you get chances, you need to take them. But going forward, for both sides is their strength, and defensively for both sides is probably their weakness.
Chris, are Hearts in that unique situation because they're Hearts that they can't be like all the other newly promoted sides where you just want to survive. They instantly have to aim, a lot higher than that. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. But that's the nature of. That's why when they get relegated, that there's an inquest and everything that's going on, and you want people to lose their jobs right from the top all the way down, because it's not been run properly and stuff like that. And that's all you hear. That's what happens with a big club. And it's the exact same when you come back up. I think Hearts done it the last time when they came back up. It's straight back into. Did they finish third, fourth when they came back up the last time? So there's pressure on Hearts to go and repeat that, and also added into it as well, though, Gordon, because Hibs are doing so well, finished third last season. They've got that pressure. But James is right. I don't think defensively Hearts are great. They've got decent players in terms of when you look at Halkett, Shooter, Michael Smith's still there, Craigie Gordon's obviously in goals, but for whatever reason they've been conceding. They've went on a good run, I think. After that Queen of the South defeated Tynecastle, they're unbeaten in 9 since then, so they're on a decent run, but it is a step up. But you're then looking at it saying it's going to be, for me, if they're going to do anything and even challenge to get into that top 6, you're going to have to look towards Liam Boyce getting that towards 15 to 20 goals if you've got any chance of getting in there.
Yeah, I think latterly Craig Gordon's on that clean sheet run, of course. But James, as it stands at the moment, is that squad good enough to go up to the top part of the Premiership? They've not done a huge deal of business over the summer.
Yeah, I think they are. I think that, I spoke about the defence. I think the midfield needs a bit of bulking up as well. I think that they need some energy in the midfield. But last season, Hearts, their job was to get out of the league. Now, everybody wanted and expected them to romp it and go and smash everybody 6-0 every week. It doesn't happen like that. Teams sit in, they frustrate you. It's difficult to play against. They won't face that this season. They'll face teams that every single team in the league will look at Hearts and say, and that's why I think the league's getting stronger. Most of the teams, different when they're playing against Celtic Rangers, but even sometimes they'll be brave. But most of them say, right, this is how we play. We're going to take our game to you. And teams will do that against Hearts, which should allow them to then not have to worry about breaking down, 2 banks of 4 or a 4 and a 5 or a 5 and a 4, So Hearts have got the players without doubt to go and not be this team that comes up and just survives. I think they've got the team, they've got the fan base that demands that they finish in the top 6. And I think that they will recruit, they'll bring players in, there's no doubt about it. They will bring players in. I think that they had a big squad. The turnover of players, or certainly the addition of players, every year, every transfer window for the last 3-4 years has been too many. They've had to trim their squad. But I think they'll bring in quality in the right areas. They've got, as Boydie says, Liam Boyce, he can play at this level, no problem. Could he score 15, 20 goals? He could, because he's that good. So it has. And I think that Hearts will be a much different and a much better team this season in the Premiership than they were in the Championship last year.
Right, in the interest of time, let's try and make some of this snappy. Where are they going to finish, Chris? Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be that comfortable top 6? Where do you see Hearts?
I'm going to go for them just to do a St Mirren and miss out. I'm going to go for them to finish 7th.
James, top 6.
But what I will say, I'm going to revisit this again in September. As it stands right now,
no, you can't. No, that's it. Oh, that's it. You need to stick by it.
Well, we'll read it on another platform then. Okay, let's go.
top six for me.
Right, okay, doke. Of course, that is a fantastic fixture. We said it at any time, especially the backstory this season. Lots going on. Sky Sports Football, Saturday the 31st of July. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. On to Sunday then, Aberdeen v Dundee United, these famous old rivals. Is this the real start of the Stephen Glass era, Chris? I mean, we saw him last season, but is this where it really begins, with the chance to put his own stamp on the team?
Yeah, well, we've seen it obviously in the European game. I think they were comfortable winners, the first leg. So, that's a little insight of how they're going to play. I think it'll be different in Scotland. When you look at the way that game, unfolded, G. Emmanuel Thomas, on the right-hand side, asked to track back. That's going to be, asking him to do that every week in Scotland could be, a tough ask. Ojo came in on that left-hand side as well, and he was asked to, if Johnny Hayes was going forward, to track back as well. So, look, there's a lot of work still to be done. I think Scott Brown obviously come in, will give them a massive lift. Ramirez coming in from Houston Dynamo as well, scored the goal. But, again, what I will say is Lewis Ferguson, 2 goals in the European first leg. He's the one who's attracted attention. If you lose him, you lose that. I think with Scott Brown came in there. I mean, Derek probably, he used Lewis Ferguson in loads of different roles last year. I think he's more suited to that top of the 3, the midfielder, that drifting in at the, similar to a Kevin Nolan type maybe, coming in, drifting in. And what I will say is he knows how to finish. He can definitely score. And he's one who, if they get the figure that they're looking for, I wouldn't be surprised if he moves on, because he obviously put in the transfer request. He seems happy. He seems happy right now in terms of he's scored 2 goals there. And that's what we spoke about with St Johnstone. That performance level sometimes lifted. That was one thing with Lewis Ferguson, especially in that first game. But listen, it's back to the Scottish Premiership. It's a different kettle of fish, as we say, and it's another one who it's Aberdeen are going to have to, they're going to have to dig deep, and it's going to be another big season required, because there's one thing we speak about Hearts' fans, Aberdeen's fans are the exact same. They demand that they push.
James, I reckon it will be round about March we'll eventually get used to Scott Brown wearing an Aberdeen shirt. I think it'll take a few months. We will get there in the end. How much can he still offer at this level?
Loads. I think last season, because everything unravelled at Celtic, Scott Brown was an easy target. His legs have gone. He's finished. You need to get him out the team. And I think that the way that Scott Brown used to play, in terms of charging about everywhere and covering every blade of grass, that has to stop, because you can't do that forever. But if he plays as a deeper midfielder and shows discipline in his position, Scott Brown will be a brilliant addition to Aberdeen. Boydie touched on it. With Lewis Ferguson, I think that he's absolutely spot on. He was used in positions that were for the better of the team, to help the team out. And I think Lewis took that responsibility on, and full credit to him. He played a number of different roles for Aberdeen, to his detriment in terms of what he was bringing, what he can bring to the side. He's much better going forward, being that further forward midfielder that breaks into the box. He makes great runs. He's got a great engine, and he has a good finisher. He's a guy that likes that responsibility. So if they can keep Lewis Ferguson, which I think will be tough. I think there'll be teams that will come in and pay the money Aberdeen want for him. But if they can keep him, Scott Brown will be crucial. But even, not just Lewis Ferguson, everybody within the club, they've moved to their new training ground. They've been in there for a while now. And Scott Brown will show them how to train every day, how to look after yourself, and how to get the best, how to put demands on each other, how to put demands on yourself. We speak about, having leaders and using the experience. He is the ideal player for that, because of how he goes about his business, how he trains, how he plays the game, how he's a leader, how he does what's right for the team. He looks out for his teammates. He'll be a big player for them. And I suppose the difference is he's coaching now. He's on the coaching staff as well. That will be difficult. It will be difficult. I can tell you that for experience. It's not easy, because you've got a foot in both camps. It'll be different for Scott in terms of he'll be playing every week. I used to get told I wasn't allowed to train, and that was heartbreaking for me. But that will be different for him, and it'll be something that obviously he's been doing for a number of weeks now, but something that he'll have to adjust to when it comes to the big decisions, when it's 3 games in a week and the manager's having that conversation to say you can sit this one out, but you're never happy that you're not playing. You might understand it's the right decision, but when you're a player, you can moan and say, "Can't believe I'm not playing. I feel great." But when you're a player coach, you have to go, "All right, fair enough, fair enough." So it's a difficult one. But I think Declan Gallagher's another one, that type of character that they've needed. And this is Stephen Glass came in last season. It would have been easy for Aberdeen to have let Paul Sheeran take the team to the end of the season and get the manager in and try and build for there. But he's come in at the end of last season, and he's got a chance to assess the squad, see what he needs, see who he wants to let go, see who he wants to bring in, and get his ideas across early. And that should, and it looks like it certainly has started with the European game, that should benefit Aberdeen for the start of the season. But I would imagine they'll be looking to maybe do a bit of business as well. But a lot of it hinges on the future of Lewis Ferguson.
Funnily enough, Chris, I know he's not a player coach, so it's not a direct comparison, but Aberdeen up against Dundee United this weekend, is that the kind of thing that United are trying to do with the signing of Charlie Mulgrew in terms of that experience and showing the younger guys how to go about their business and prolong?
You can't beat experience, Gordon. I mean, it doesn't matter whatever way you can't beat it. And I think Charlie's already shown in the League Cup a fantastic free kick. I think he'll come in, he'll train properly, as you need to do. The older you get, you need to look after your body. You need to do everything properly. Hence the reason why me and James are washed up and finished with 35. But however,
hey, I've only got one knee. You leave me out of this.
But no, look, I think with Dundee United as well, with Charlie Mulgrew coming in, it's that little bit of experience at the back. They've got players that can cause problems, but. I said at the start of last season, I thought they would have struggled. I thought Mickey Mellon ended up working wonders with the team he had. He got them into a position, finishing 8th, I think. But I don't know. I just get the feeling this season, they've added Charlie Mulgrew, but I'm not quite sure how they'll do this season. I know I said it would be 10th and 11th between Dundee and Dundee United, but I think Dundee United could struggle this season.
And if they don't keep Siegrist and or Shankland, then does that change? How important are they to?
100%. You only need to look at Siegrist. I think his performance against was at Celtic at the end of the season as well, when he had about 105 saves that day. But I think he's been linked with moves away, and again, he deserves it. He's came into the football club. His performances have attracted attention from other clubs. He's done really, really well. They've took Dundee United. I think they're probably preparing for it as well. They've taken Trevor Carson from Motherwell, an experienced goalkeeper as well, which, you know, is a good signing. But, you know, I think when you look at them, Clark and Shanklin, you've got Butcher, you know, Hart's, Fuchs in the middle of the pitch, but I don't really see a lot of creativity in there. Scoring goals was obviously a problem for them last season as well, as we've mentioned with a few of the teams. But, you know, for me, with Dundee United, I think it could be a long, difficult season.
What about Aberdeen then? You've given us your Dundee United prediction in there. Can Aberdeen reclaim third? It's actually been a while since they finished third. People forget that because they were on such a good run of it. Is that a realistic aim?
I think go back to it again, you know, we've touched on it. If I do it again in September, I feel as if I'm on repeat. Can they do it? Of course they can. They've got the players there that they can. I don't think that we're going to see the exact same Aberdeen team that we've seen for a number of years. They're going to be open, expansive, try and play football. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way some managers want to play nowadays. Do I think they could? Will they be up there? Of course they will be. I fancy Hibs and Aberdeen to be battling out for third and fourth again. Chuck into the mix. You know, your St Johnstone, St Mirren, and you know, I think Hearts, as I said, will just miss out in the top six. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, as I said, it's early doors. If Hearts have to go and get a couple of players in, could you see them pushing towards, you know, third and fourth? Of course you could. But for me, at this moment in time, if everything stays the way it is, I'm going to say Aberdeen are going to finish fourth.
Briefly from you, James, then, where do you see these two? How do you see them faring?
Aberdeen, I think, will be fighting out for third, fourth. I think they will be looking to reclaim it. Stephen Glass has been open about that. He wants to take the club forward. So the improvement would have to be, you know, third. Dundee United, I think they might struggle as well. I think they'll be bottom six. They've got a lot of good young players, and touching on the Challen McGrew one, I think it's great to bring that experience in to help them out. And Trevor Carson, for me, is a ready-made replacement for Benjamin Siegrist.
Absolutely right. The weekend comes to a conclusion at Fir Park on Sunday. Motherwell against Hibs. How much of this is about building on what we saw last season from Graham Alexander? James, you know the club well. He actually came in and got some really good results. But as usual, you've been associated with the club a long time, and every summer it's umpteen players out, umpteen players in, and you never quite know what you're going to get. No,
I think Graham Alexander done a magnificent job going in last season. The club, you'll know as well as I do, it didn't look great. You know, it didn't look like the season was going to end too well for the mighty well. But I think he came in and done a fantastic job. But that is the nature of the club. You know, they sign players, although they've changed that approach this season. They've got a couple of players on 3-year deals and trying to protect. You know, for Graham Alexander, he's come in, you know, 3 players that stand out that he would have been desperate to keep, in Devante Cole, Declan Gallagher and Alan Campbell. But the other ones, I'm pretty sure he's made the decision that, you know, I would rather move them on and try and bring in his own players. He done magnificent, but he's now at a stage where it's his team now. You know, he came in and he steadied the ship, got them on a good run of form. But now this is him building his team. It's too early to say. The League Cup campaign, although the results have been decent, apart from the one that mattered, Gordon. We don't know. They're winning. They're winning games. Performance levels, they've not been there. But we keep hearing this. It's pre-season, and I know it's still a competition. They've done their job. They've got out the group. The performances haven't been great, but he showed enough last season that he knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the best out of his players.
Summer recruitment's always a bit of a mixed bag for Motherwell. Liam Kelly is a great signing for most people. The fans are all excited about that. But it's just going to be wait and see, isn't it? As James says, the League Cup performances, they've won games at times without being brilliant, and it's going to be an interesting start to the campaign.
Yeah, it is. I think James touched on it briefly there in terms of the signings that had came in, the ones that he had lost as well. A corner at the right-hand side of that defence as well came up from Leicester. I was at the game against Queen of the South, Motherwell, and I thought they huffed and puffed, to be brutally honest. They were 2-0 down at half-time. Yes, they got back into it, but there's a lot of work to be done. James has touched on the forward there, Willihan and Van Veen, is it? the striker that they've brought in. You know, they've recruited in that forward areas as well. But, you know, again, when you look at it, the players they've lost, it's going to be a work in progress for Motherwell at this moment in time. Yes, they've got through the group stages of the League Cup, but as I said, from what I've seen, there's still a lot of work to be done. But you'd like to think that, you know, if Graham Alexander gets it right, that they can, you know, they would do well, because, you know, I think when you look at, you know, Kilmarnock losing their status in the top flight last year, Motherwell's another club who have been here for a number of years now in the top flight of Scottish football, and you know, I hope, I mean, you know especially better than me, it's a good club, it's well run. I think with all the troubles it's overcame, it's well run, and you just want it to be a success on the football pitch. You don't want this turnover year after year after year. Yes, you're going to lose players, but, you know, I hope Motherwell get settled to the start of the season, because they're going to need it. As I said, it wasn't, obviously Robinson lost his job last season off the back of it not being, you know, a great start to the season. And you don't want that overhaul again, plain and simply because Graham Alexander has came up, he's signed a lot of players. If it doesn't start well, 9 times out of 10, the manager loses his job. Then you're back to a situation where a new manager's come in and you've got a whole load of players. You know, you go back to Hibs a couple of seasons ago as well. So, you know, I think it's really, really important that Motherwell start the season very well.
Well, funnily enough, they did all right against Hibs at times last season, James, but I'm not sure it's the fixture that Graham Alexander, you know, would have chosen if he had the choice. Hibs, a very good season last year. They've got some talent that they'll be looking to keep. Doig and Nesbitt. Nesbitt went off to the Euros and got some game time for Scotland. So they're going to be a really interesting one to watch this season, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think that Jack Ross has obviously signed a new contract. I think that for a guy that has just only played a season, to be thinking or speaking about Hibs losing Josh Doig would be a huge blow for them, because he's been brilliant. Nesbitt as well, I'm pretty sure there'll be interest in him. And like a lot of teams, like the teams that have done well and that are looking to progress and push on, the most important part is strengthening the side by bringing players in, but keeping your best players as well. And that is going to be difficult for Hibs, I think, with the bids that will come in. They've obviously not back a big bid for Nesbitt. I think Graham Matthew was speaking the other day saying that the offers for Doig have been derisory, showing a lack of respect to Scottish football. I think Daniel Mackay is a good signing for them. Young player, quick, direct, fits into the way that Hibs want to play. Jake Doyle-Hayes as well, good signing. Another guy that comes in to that type of the midfield where when they've got the ball, got possession, he's good on the ball. But Hibs will be, Jack Ross is like any manager that wants to do well, that wants to progress. The demands, they'll be looking for more. What is more for Hibs? Doing better in the cups is one of them. Maintaining that league position. There's the European football. Can they take that beyond? Can they get into the group stages? Can they take that beyond Christmas? But in order to do that, you need a big squad, because that is a lot of games, and that is difficult to recover every 2 or 3 days, and then be at that level to then go again and fight on all fronts. So that's why it's crucial to keep their best players. They've added good quality, but I think Hibs will build on last season. I really do. I think they're the team where, as you said, it's not an ideal game having to play them in your first game of the season, but they'll be a scalp for teams. Teams will want to go and upset Hibs, and that's another challenge that they have to be ready for.
Chris, do you think this is a big season for Jack Ross? Because when you finish third, it's obviously a good season. In Scotland, you're the best of the rest. But it was so close to being an unbelievable season. They obviously had their big disappointments in big cup games. It feels like he's right on that line between doing something outstanding that's really going to attract interest, and obviously the fans are an ambitious bunch as well. So is that a big season for him? Yeah,
it is. I mean, I think obviously with Hearts coming back up as well, there's added pressure on Hibs to stay above them and kick on. You've got manager changes at Aberdeen as well, who you would think would be the rivals for that third and and fourth spot. I mean, for whatever the state that Celtic are in, I think it's unrealistic to say that your Hibs and even your Aberdeens, your Hearts can go and challenge them. I think that James touched on it there. The squad depth in terms of European. I'll be interested to see how Hibs are on Sunday after a long trip to Andorra and back. In the heat and everything as well. So I think that it can be difficult. But again, Hibs are another one where if you lose Nisbet, if you lose Boyle, if you lose Porteous, if you lose Doig, I don't think they'll lose all four of them. But it's going to have a massive impact on them. But again, that shows you how well they've done. If somebody's come in and offer, the millions of pounds that they're talking about for these players, then there's nothing that they can actually do. Again, you've got to look at it and say, well done to Jack Ross and his coaching staff for bringing them on. Marciano's left as well, experienced goalkeeper over the years as well. He's an unbelievable move to Feyenoord. I tell you what, if I've come back, I'm going to come back as a second choice goalkeeper, still be playing at 50. But Macy's come in there as well, showing that he's up to it. But McGinn, even Stevenson as well. These are seasoned campaigners that Hanlon, the new captain. But Scott Allen back as well, I think, is a massive boost for Hibs. Everybody thought he was going to have to retire, so that's brilliant for him. But Joe Newell in the middle of the pitch as well, I think, is an excellent talent. But we speak about it. If they lose the players, the guys who score the goals, the guys who makes the difference, Boyle, Nisbet. I wouldn't be surprised if there is interest comes in for those two. I was at Easter Road for the first leg of that European game, and Boyle was excellent. Honestly, worked his socks off. Scored the goals. He was really, really good. A threat. His pace terrifies defenders. And Kevin Nisbet, when you look at it, where he was 12 months ago, to say he's represented Scotland at Euros, you're now on the verge of, I think they turned down, £3.5 million or £3 million.
Yeah.
So you would have to say that there's probably a move in the horizon there as well. If you look at it, would Rangers or Celtic, would they take a nibble at it? Maybe, because there's one thing he's shown he can finish. Especially Celtic, when you take into consideration the whole Edward Griffiths, Ayeti, it's not happening for him. At least,
If they do, and the fact that they've not back $3 million, how much would you pay for Nisbet if you were Celtic Rangers?
Well, I think we've touched on it, James, regarding this whole quarantine with players coming into Celtic. The league starts in a couple of days' time. You wouldn't have to. Kevin Nisbet doesn't have to quarantine when he comes in. Odsonne Edouard, when you look at it, I don't think he wants to be there. His performances have shown that. I don't think he's anywhere near the levels that he's been at. Lee Griffiths, for whatever reason, once again is posted missing. You then look at Albion Ayeti. That's not going to work. Kevin Nisbet has proved that he can score goals at this level. Again, looking at it, we never thought that he would go and have the impact that he has in the Scotland squad. He was only on the pitch against the Netherlands and had the ball in the back of the net. Sometimes when you go up that level, you play with better players, your performances, rise and you go with, the better players that are around you. I think Kevin Nisbet has got another level in him. I think he's got, if it is Celtic, could he go there and score goals? I think he could, because he's definitely can finish. There will be more chances created. And for me, looking at it, he's not going to go cheaply. If Celtic wants somebody to come in and score goals, he could be your man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He is going to be one to watch this season. For the final time then, I'll ask you how these two are going to fare. And by the way, I know how ridiculous this question is, because I know that players are going to come and go and these predictions might be ripped up and put in the bin, but that's the whole fun of it. It means that come May, we get to slag you even more. So Chris, Hibs, third again? Or
I'll just say Motherwell bottom six, Hibs top six. That's the serious. No, I'm going to go for, I'll touch on it, the old famous words. As it stands at this moment in time, I'm going to go for Hibs to finish third. And I think that Motherwell, I touched on it briefly there. I hope, I like Motherwell as a football club. I know you two are fans of the football club. I like them. I like the way they go about their business. They've been in the top flight for a number of years. I just hope they've got enough to get away from it. I think they will. I think they will gel together. They'll come together. It'll work. I'm going to go for Motherwell to finish 8th. Which leaves Livingston, Dundee United and Ross County below them. So it's probably just about a normal season for Motherwell, but it'll need to improve vastly from what I've seen in the recent weeks. And I think you two will back me up in that.
No comment. James, these two, Motherwell and Hibs?
Yeah, I think Hibs will be, looking to keep their third spot. So Hibs will be third or fourth for me. Motherwell, forget about the performances in the League Cup. They're still winning games. They still get players to come back. I think that Motherwell will push for the top 6, but I can't have 7 in the top 6, so they'll be fighting it. They'll be fighting
it's a top
it
8 for you.
Aye, top 8. No, they'll be fighting out at the end. I think I can't remember who I put in the top 6.
By the way, that's you get 8 teams in the top 6.
They'll be fighting out with Hearts, I think, for the 6th spot.
There we go. Well, there we are. Don't forget, you can catch Motherwell v Hibs, Sky Sports Football, Sunday the 1st of August. Kick-off at 4:30. Let me thank Chris Boyd and James McFadden for joining me. It's going to be a brilliant season, guys. I think you would agree, no matter what happens, there is never any shortage of drama in Scotland. And it all gets underway in a couple of days' time. Some brilliant opening day fixtures. And then the big picture. Can Rangers make it 2 in a row? Will the Ange Postecoglou revolution be enough for Celtic? How did St Johnstone top last season? What drama will the return of the Edinburgh and Dundee derbies bring? Can the new managers Thomas Coates and Malky Mackay hit the ground running? So many questions, and we are about to start finding out the answers. The new season is here, and you can catch it all on Sky Sports, the home of Scottish football.